Howdy folks, this is Wandering Mind 25, and what you're looking at is my NES emulator, looking through the emulation station on my Raspberry Pi. Now, in my last video, I showed you how to add ROMs, and then also how to make them pretty. Now, as you can see on the left side, we have an image with a little bit of a description which scrolls a little bit. And I'm going to scroll down with my Xbox controller, and you can see on the left it starts to scroll a little bit, and a bunch of ROMs have images. Not all of them. For instance, if I were to go down to Adam's Family, that does not. So that was one of the guys that it did not find an entry in the database. And if I scroll over to my NES, neither one of the PlayStations found an image. I don't know if it would apply to that either. But not a lot of NES or Super NES images came up, but some did. So that would be what making it pretty, what it does. So now on to the next thing. Alright. What you're looking at is an LED, that's a power LED, the Raspberry Pi, and then if I pull this off the side here, a bunch of switches and some LEDs. Now the LEDs I don't have plugged in, but the switches I do have. The switch with the green wire is my shutdown button, and the switch with the gray wires is the reset button. So I have, if you can kind of see on the board, I have the gray wire in the front and I have the green wire in the back. The back green wire, which says sleep switch on it, that's my shutdown button, and that is on pin header 5, which is only 8 little pins which I end up having to solder onto the board. I only need to solder 2 on, but if I'm going to do 2, might as well do the rest as well. Same thing with the pin header on the front here. I think it's called P6 pin header, so you can kind of see it, but I had to solder 2 pin heads on that location as well. So let me give you a little bit more of a demonstration. If I were to press the green button here, sorry, these buttons came off of a PC, so they've been in a certain position for years. But anyway, I press this green button. I can't pull, my wire's not long enough, so I can't pull it up to show you on the screen at the same time, but I'm going to hit this, and both the LED is going to turn off, but not immediately, and so is this. So I'm going to hit it now. And you see where that little white dot is? When that white dot disappears, so is the LED is going to turn off as well, and it's off. So in order to turn it back on, and again, that shutdown was a safe shutdown. If I want to turn it back on, I can either unplug the power, or I can just hit the reset button. So I'm going to press that, and then light comes on, and code comes up. So the shutdown button, that took a little coding. I was able to pull a document offline to be able to do that. I did run into some difficulties, but I'll show you how I got over that. And the reset button, that's more of a physical thing. You just basically solder the 2 pins on there and you short them out with a switch of some sort, and it'll restart your Pi. Now that restart is a hard restart, so it will bypass the whole safety feature that the shutdown does. So at this point, that means I can shut down my Pi with one button, and it will do a software shutdown. And I can also do a worst case scenario restart of the Pi while it's in a running state. And I can also use the restart button to wake up the Pi from the software shutdown state. So now the next thing I can show you is the LED. The LED is plugged into GPIO pin 14, or no, it's GPIO 14, but it's plugged into pin 8 for power and pin 6 for ground. So that would be the two black wires that go to my breadboard. And then I have a 51 ohm resistor because it's a 3.3 power source, and my LED can only handle about 2 volts. So I had to drop that down. It's really, the actual rating is 1.8 to 2.1 or something like that. So the 51 ohm resistor will drop it down to a safe voltage for me. Now that LED is using the GPIO's power source. So when I actually shut down the Pi, it's not just a hard shutdown, but it will show me when the power has actually shut down, so that I can hit an external power source to shut it down. So I'm not just cutting the power, and I have some kind of indication, because once I have this in the case, all I have to look at is my TV screen, which I may or may not, I might have switched off and I'm looking at something else at that point. Or I have this LED, so I'm going to click the button, and a few moments later, the LED will turn off. And when I click the restart button, it comes back on. Now, it does do some flickering when I first turn it on. I'm not sure what exactly that is, if that's some kind of a data pulse. It could be, but for my purposes, LED comes on and off when the board is actually running. So that's my only concern. Now, during the whole powering down and restarting, my hub is going to continue to run. So it's always going to be pushing voltage out. So I'm going to have an exterior power switch that will be a master for everything. So I'll do a software shutdown by hitting that button or clicking shutdown inside the Pi using my controller. And once that's shut down, then I'll just flip the master switch to cut power to the entire system. Now, I'll show you what I intend to do. This guy right here is the guts of a NES, which, if I can pull that off without cutting myself. Let me put that down for a minute. There we go. So there would be your power and restarts. Of course, the LED is just so bright on this phone. Okay, so power and restart. It's a pretty standard board. You can see where power goes in, power goes out with these cables. So all I have to do is just rig up a resistor on the outside pins, one of the outside pins, and then the LED will work. And the power off switch, I have to remove this little copper pin inside there, which would also mean I have to remove that metal plate to essentially make it the same as this one, to make it a momentary switch rather than a on-off switch. So this will control the functions of what I have here. And I'll also have that LED tied in. So my NES here. So I have my shutdown button, my restart button, my power LED. Now I've actually, just to show you a little bit more, this box right here, I did some what's it, retro clean or something like that, where you do hydrogen peroxide, some OxyClean, and you do it in a bath with in some light, and it's turned out pretty good. This thing was pretty nasty before. The wording for NES, it looks a little pink and rather than red, but this thing was incredibly yellow. You can't really see it on the video, but that looks 100% better than what it did. Again, a little bit yellow. I guess a good representation would be, you see these buttons, how yellow they are, and even the power, how you have like a little stripe through it. I assume something had been covering it. I got to do something about that eventually, but that's what it did look like, and now that's what it looks like. So it's 100% better. This NES came from a friend, so I wasn't about to rip open my own NES which obviously I have to have it right there. Yes, I'm a bit of a unorganized person, so I got stuff all over the place. So that should be my physical setup, and eventually I'll show you a video of it all put together. But that's how I have everything wired up. My next video I'll show you the configuration of how I got the shutdown button to work, as well as the documentation on the LED. So you can follow along. Alright, until next time, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.